YouTube, I'll just say welcome. And there we go. We live. David Bezuidenhout, welcome to Coffee and Conversations with Champions. It's awesome to have you joining us. And Dave, thank you so much for making yourself available so close to competition time.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be chatting to you. And I think just before we started, you mentioned that at the end of the chat, you wanted to do some honorable mentions. But I think let's start off with that. And I think it's what a wonderful way to start the show.
Thanks for that. Yeah, so basically, I just wanted to acknowledge where we are with strongman in South Africa. So, from previous interviews and speaking, you would have noticed that there's a lot of new energy and excitement in with the sport. So it does coincide, obviously, with the fact that we're very fortunate that one of our athletes, Reino, has gone and
Mm-hmm.
represented South Africa so well and ended up actually winning the World's Strongest Man. But before all of that has happened, we've gotten new control over the strongman body, as to say, for South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the new president. You did mention Kellen Mills, so he's the president now of the South African Strongman Union. So he's the one heading that up. And then he's also being helped by a guy called Javi van der Berg,
Right.
which has put a lot of effort into this, into the last year or so to try and grow the sport, to try and pull in sponsors, a lot of own money, own time going into that. And I feel it's just prudent that we make mention of that and acknowledge that because it's people like that and people that are very passionate about the sport, especially a niche sport like strongman,
Mm-hmm.
that will allow it to grow. And like I said, it is a niche sport. It's not something everybody can do. It's definitely not something the Joe Soap on the street knows about. So for me, it's just important to give acknowledgement to that. And then,
Sure.
to guys like Dean that's organizing a great essays for us, putting in a lot of effort. It's been a while since an athlete has felt like an athlete, felt
Right.
treated like an athlete.
Sure.
And this competition gives me the impression and a lot of excitement that those days are back. So where an athlete feels like an athlete. In your previous interviews, you would have heard mention of the fact that we're not professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So as an athlete, it takes a lot from you. It's your own money, it's your own time, it's time away from friends, time away from family. Our sport is high risk. Injuries are very common, and we're not talking about small injuries. It's
Mm-hmm.
torn tendons, torn muscles. So you put a lot on the line, and it's number one, you do it for yourself, but it is nice to get some recognition as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
All the effort, time, money that goes into it, that you get treated as such.
Yes.
And like we said, we're not professionals. We don't get money for this. That would be great if we could, be chasing our dreams professionally. But I just feel like individuals as such, and a brand like TNT,
Mm-hmm.
which is the main supplement sponsor for Strongman in South Africa, they need acknowledgement and they need a proper thank you because at the end of the day, and organized like Dean, because at the end of the day, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. And hopefully, at some point, the sport will grow to such a point where we can actually come back and reward these people for their efforts by performing well, by producing more athletes like a Reino now, like
Mm-hmm.
a Yaku, that can go overseas and really represent and do well,
Yes.
and make us proud.
And
So just
mm,
one more thing
sure,
quickly,
please.
and then my rant's over. If you would please give SA Strength Sports a
Mm-hmm.
follow. It's on Instagram is the handle, and it's the same on TikTok. And then also just tag them
Sorry,
with all
that's
your
such a.
training videos.
Yeah, I have to interrupt and ask. That's such a fantastic sign. Where did you get it?
Yeah, my daughter and wife quickly just drew that up for me.
Oh, forgive me.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
if we can please give that page a follow, anybody that's watching, for anything regarding the sport, demos,
Mm-hmm.
competitions, tag the page in your PBs. If there's a video you're proud of, your training, the page does a lot to try and push the sport as well, to give exposure to athletes. A lot of posts, you can go to that page now. There's athlete stories.
Mm-hmm.
It's SA Strength Sports. It's about powerlifting, strongman, anything regarding strength. So in South Africa, so give the page a follow and tag them in your endeavors. They every now and again there's also nice competitions that they run. So we kind of give a challenge. It's like a front hold for time or a
Mm-mm.
pull-ups, you know, within 60 minutes. We do try and make it challenges that the general person can do, but then also sometimes here and there we'll throw in like a strongman specific thing like a log lift or a stone. So just give it a follow and support the page as well and support the people that are supporting our sport.
Absolutely.
Please. And then that's my plug. My plug is over.
Fantastic. Well, I want
Thanks.
to chat to you about your plug a little bit, and then we'll get into you because I think it's really, really exciting. Let's see this one here. We got Lightweight Keegs. Excited to see you in action with a heart. So that's from Keegs for you. I think you can see the love. And the thing is, it's so important to acknowledge the guys that are doing the work behind the scenes, because I think with a lot of new athletes or a lot of people that are new to the sport, they don't understand it doesn't run on its own. It isn't maintained on its own. There's a lot of stuff that happens in terms of bodies and associations and getting paperwork in and getting stuff done. So I think it's absolutely fantastic, David, that you did and that we started the podcast with this as well, because it takes a lot to run a federation. It takes a lot to run a sport. It takes a lot to put these competitions on. And what I also wanted to chat to you about, you've made such an important point, making athletes feel like athletes. And
Yeah.
I don't think the general public really understands the challenges that it takes to put on a competition. I know with one of the athletes we were chatting, I think yesterday, about I think it was maybe with Dean actually talking about venues and going out to the, maybe somewhere in the very, very far East Rand or somewhere far out, and you're in a shed and no one from the public is coming out to support you because it's so far away. But the organizer has nowhere else to do it because of the cost of hiring a venue and of putting stuff on. I just want to mention something. We're looking at venues for the the World Masters earlier this year. It's going to be in Cape Town, the IPF World Masters, and one of the hotels wants 140,000 rand a day for venue hire. Plus, you have to buy all your food, you're talking like, so now you got to feed spotters and loaders, you got to feed referees. And people think that it's so just for 10 days it's 1.4 million, and it's about 300,000 rand for food and stuff that you have to buy from the hotel. So if you want a nice venue, there's huge costs. And then athletes can't afford to cover that on the fees, the competition fees, right? So it's like, where does the money come from? And people are always shouting about sponsors and why, we need sponsors. This is why we do this. We want to grow the sport and the awareness. But just, I wanted to also say, to acknowledge the athletes and the organizers and the guys running, everything in the background. They really do need to be acknowledged and have a shout out, because it's very difficult to do. It's difficult to put on comps. It's difficult to put on something special, and it's difficult to break through to that point where there's big funding. I know, South Africa, we talk about, the guys sharing deadlift suits here. And I was laughing a little bit earlier with Jason De Beer because he was talking about, I think, borrowing Keegan's deadlift suit, and it's a 20 kilo weight difference. Just to get a deadlift suit here or a squat suit, it's a fortune, and it doesn't fit. And then you gain size, and there's such challenges. So I think, as you said, it's so important that we acknowledge the athletes, that we acknowledge the organizers, and that we acknowledge the guys running the federations and doing the work. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, thank you, Nick. Yeah, no, look, without them, there is no sport.
Yeah,
Um, and at the end of the day, like I said, I feel sometimes those people don't get the acknowledgement they deserve.
yeah,
So yeah, I just thought let me try and take the platform. I haven't really been interviewed in the past or whatever, so hoping to take the opportunity to just give some acknowledgement. And yeah, I mean, I've been in the sport for very, very long.
yeah,
Like I said, TNT has always been a stalwart from a supplements perspective and supporting us in demos and prizes and stuff. But at the end of the day, that's the point, is to just give acknowledgement
Hmm.
and like a heartfelt thank you, on a platform that can be seen.
Absolutely. So let's start off with that. And I want to get a little bit of your background and how you got into the sport and unpack who is David for the public and your listening. But tell us a little bit about TNT, and sort of what that sponsorship has been like, what it's like using the product. Let's give them a little bit of a plug.
Yeah, so I'm not sponsored by them. So let me just clear
Okay.
that
Yep.
very quickly. I'm not sponsored by them.
Not
I'm
yet.
just giving them acknowledgement.
Hey, TNT, luister julle mos nou.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But the point is that when I started the sport,
Mm,
from the very start, they've been involved. So they've supported athletes. One of the big ones would have been Etienne. You would have heard of him,
mhm,
Etienne Smith, multiple SA strongest man and absolute legend. So the point is that they've always, supported the sport. And the way that I feel about the sport is I'm very passionate about the sport. I've been in it since 2009. I
mhm.
really, really
Sure.
am passionate about strongman. I've spent a lot of money. I've had a lot of heartaches, a lot of, injuries, a lot of disappointments, and I'm definitely not built for the sport.
Okay.
If anybody would need to see me, they would think I'm maybe a power lifter or something. I'm like 5'8",
Mhm,
currently like 140 odd kilos. So I'm definitely not built for strongman, and I have done powerlifting, but my passion lies in strongman. And the point is that I want to support those that support
yes.
my passion and my
Sure.
sport.
Awesome.
So I've been using TNT supplements probably for the last 10 plus years, no
Mhm,
longer, probably for the last 12, 13 years, exclusively where possible. And yeah, I've never had, any bad experiences with their products. And their products are also very well priced, very
mhm,
competitive, and they're always very forward looking. So if you think about things like this is something new that people would talk about, is like, let's say, a new type of supplement, which is like a nootropic,
mhm,
which is something that, works on the brain chemistry and helps you to focus, and it has certain, aspects of the way it works. A nootropic is something that's like a new type of, supplement that's hit the scene. TNT, with, before I even think of raising a, TNT is bringing out the supplement
mhm,
like that within their trial series. If you look at, rehydration, and that's being, like a big important thing a lot of athletes are focusing. Before, think of bringing it up, boom,
mm,
TNT
mm,
brought out hydration formula as well, electrolyte formula. So at the end of the day, it's a brand. Like I said, it's a great brand, but the main reason, like I said, they have good products, but it's because they do support our sports, and
mhm,
they support athletes, they sponsor athletes, and give them acknowledgement. Same, like I said, I'm fearful that I'll miss someone. Like I'll miss, like, I think NMI is the big sponsor for the SA,
yep,
so I really don't want to miss anybody by saying this, but the point is just that it's a great brand, and they've been consistent.
yep,
I've been in strongman, like I said, since about 2009,
mhm,
if not earlier,
sure.
and yeah, I love it. So anybody that's going to support the sport, I'm going to be
To
behind
back.
100%.
100%. That's fantastic. And it's I think we've spoken about the sponsors and with NMI, a lot. And it's great to just to mention other things because we're talking about the comp, we're talking about the NMI sponsorship, but we're also talking about the sponsorship and the support of the sport over the years. So that's absolutely fantastic.
Yes.
One quick question: do they have a chocolate whey, and what's it like? What's your favorite flavor?
They do have a chocolate way.
Yeah.
I like the prime way. It's
Okay.
my favorite.
Good. Awesome. I think one of the things in life is you need to find a way that you enjoy taking. It's just something that makes you happy because it can be a bit of a treat during those dark cutting days. You know, you need.
My
Yeah.
favorite is a bit of whey
Yeah.
with a bit of yogurt and some
Oof.
sweeteners, and then
Yeah.
I'm got a like a kind of a chocolate mousse type of
Oh,
situation
very
going.
very cool. So, how did you get involved in strongman? Where did that journey start?
Well, as a kid, at some point we had like a ESPN feed into DSTV,
Hmm.
so we used to watch World's Strongest Man. So I used to watch the greats, Magnus Magnuson, and
Yes.
Big Z and Brian Shaw and all these guys come up. So as a child, I watched World's Strongest Man, and I really wanted to do it. At that point, obviously, rugby was a big thing for
Hmm.
me, but unfortunately, that didn't work out for me the way I wanted to. Life happens, obviously, as
Yeah.
well. And then I needed to get another avenue for me to pursue because I started working for a bank. So we were working 6 days a week.
Sure.
So I couldn't pursue club rugby either. I
Hmm.
was playing it, but there were matches that I couldn't make because I had to be at work or I was
Hmm.
going to be late for. And so I ended up having to drop the rugby and continue with something else. And I'd always noticed that, when I was training in gym, that generally I was pretty strong. Naturally, I was stronger than the majority of the guys at your regular gym, and I thought to myself, there has to be a way for me to pursue this. So my
Right.
dad did powerlifting,
Okay.
so I ended up, touching base on a few powerlifting things. But then one night, at a braai, just coincidentally, we were talking about the strongman, and I was mentioning how I would love to do it.
Mm.
And there was actually someone that knew strongmen, which were training in Springs.
Okay.
And that's a very dear friend of mine, Willie White, and a group of guys. Paul, Andre, Gerard, and these guys, they were all training together on a weekend basis at a gym called Flex Appeal in Salcourt in
Hmm.
Springs. So I got their number, and the first thing I did is I find them. I said, I want to come and train. Going there thinking, I'm this big boy, and I'm the strongest guy in my gym. I can deadlift the most, and I got humbled very quickly with the sport. I got humbled very quickly, but I also fell in love with it very
Yes.
quickly.
Was that something
Because
that was
like I
quite
said,
special for you, seeing, hey, look at all of this growth that I can now achieve? Because it's great being the strongest guy in the
100%.
gym, but you don't grow. Yeah.
Yeah, so I like to say that, I try to do my namesake proud.
Hmm.
So I'm the David, and I try to take down Goliaths, whether it's actual Goliaths or challenges. So
Love it.
the harder something is, generally, the more I'm stuck into it.
Mm-mm.
Um, so yeah, I think that initial, like, we always joke that the guys that stick aren't right in the head. We always say we got some sort of screw and wire and everything loose, because it's really tough. It's
Mm.
very hard on your body. And like I said, we're not showered with rewards or recognition or things like that. So it's a very personal journey, this.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so from the first training session, I was hooked. This is what I wanted to do. I'm going to really sound like an old guy, but now in my day, we didn't have weight classes and all these
Yes.
things. You were an open athlete, and there was no novice and amateur and whatever. You were a level. You could either fit in or you couldn't. And for the first, I would say, 2 to 3 years, we were just appies. So we would travel with the guys doing the demos and stuff. But generally, we would just load the stuff, get it
Hmm.
ready for
Hmm.
them, and then they would have the show, and then we'd pack up, and then we would train after the fact. We would go do some training with them, and they teach us how to do the log, how to do a stone, how to run with a yoke, those
Hmm.
kind of things. And then we started with we had one athlete when I was, we were still, with this open class. We had one athlete that was a 105. That's my coach, which is Roy Skippers,
Okay.
but he competed with open class because there was no 105, and then
Right.
overseas he would do 105. But taking his example, then a few of us, Villy White, Fricky Page, myself, a few of us got together and we created this, what we call the 105 kg class.
Hmm.
Because overseas, there is a class for 105s in Europe at that point, which was called the middleweight class. So
Okay.
we then created that class, and that's kind of how we started. So I was quite pudgy and quite overweight. So I lost a lot of weight to try and make
Hmm.
105. And then we had our first official 105 competition where I met Kellen Mills. He was much smaller than he is now.
Right.
But yeah, and that's how I started in the sport. And yeah, like I said, I'm in love with it. I really am passionate about the sport. And it's not like, I can show you a wall full of titles or records. I've always just been chasing, I've always
Hmm.
been second or this. But it's the challenge I like, and pushing myself to a point where, like, one day I want to go sit back in my rocking chair and say, you know what, I was the strongest David I could be.
Yes.
And that would give me peace. So that's one of the things. But I'm not going to lie. I do chase titles and records as well. I do want to have that title and
Yeah.
and say, here are my records.
Mm.
From a powerlifting perspective, I have been SA champ. I think this year I actually did get my first record in strongman, which
Awesome.
was the silver dollar record for South Africa and Africa.
Okay.
This is 510 kg. So
Sure.
we are competitive. But the point is, at the end of the day, I love the sport regardless
Mm,
of
mm.
whether I'm getting my result or not.
For you, what makes the sport so special, so lovable?
It's the people.
Hmm.
I've traveled overseas as well, so it's the strongman. It's the people around strongman, the supporters, the athletes. There's a culture to it that's it's tangible,
Hmm.
but it's hard to explain. Um, so a practical example I can give you is I think it was 2015. We were doing under 105 essays. I was leading the competition,
Hmm.
and then the guy behind me was Fricky Page, which has won the title at that. I think at that point it was 4 times, or he took it
Sure.
5 times. Then
Right.
I was chasing him, and at that point I was ahead. And the last event we kind of had, I think, was the car deadlift for reps, which was
Mm.
like I think it was an H100 bucky.
Okay.
So he went,
Mm.
and then I followed him. And I went and we deadlifted, bearing in mind we do wear suits,
Yeah.
so that it'll make the story more believable. But my strap snapped with a bucky. I ended up doing like we call it a
Sure.
varvin in Afrikaans. So I basically flipped sideways.
Oh.
I got stood up by, I think it was Killen Mills or Jared Leask,
Hmm.
and Fricky threw me his strap and
Sure.
said, "Here you go.
Gee whiz.
Now,
Gee
why do
whiz.
you love the sport?"
Yeah. There you go.
I literally, and at that point, I was hot on his heels. If I literally had 2 or 3 more seconds, I would have taken the title. But the point is, that's why I love the sport. You go overseas. I was in Norway, and then I
Mm.
was in Finland. We don't speak the language. You can barely understand each other, but we get along, and
Mhm.
there's a camaraderie and a brotherhood, and we cheer each other along. So that's why I love the sports, and then the fact that it pushes you. There's
Yes.
so many disciplines that you can never say that okay, you're the best,
Hmm.
because there will always be everybody's got something, something that you won't be good at. And what I love about strongman is it's going to show you what that is,
Right.
and then it's going to force you to fix it.
Sure. That's, and that's how you can evolve and constantly be working on yourself and not get bored, right? But that's such an amazing story where you want the best. No, you don't want to beat someone because their strap snaps. You want everyone to have as much opportunity as possible. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely love that. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal story. I wanted to also go back a little bit because you have been involved in the sport for a while, and maybe we could daydream a little bit of a fantasy or something to plan towards. There were some legendary strongman competitions. You mentioned Magnuson at Sun City, and that we had, I think it was 2 or 3 years where they had them at Sun City. Do you think that's something that Strongman should be working towards, getting back to a venue like that for events like that?
I agree. I
Mm.
do think that's definitely the case. But then I also want to again say those individuals that I did mention,
Mm.
Favi and Kellen and these guys, they're putting a lot of effort in. So to your
100%.
point, having these international events at great venues.
Yeah.
So for the first time in quite a few years, we've actually had what we call the Strongman Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's a strongman league that runs the whole world. It's one of the qualifying routes you can have to get to bigger competitions like Giants Live and World's Strongest Man. Now, we had one of the first comps again in many years we had now in Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, they're going to have their final. So it's a league that runs across the world, and then they have a final that culminates into a final where you're on a leaderboard.
Okay.
Now, that final is going to be in South Africa.
Sure.
And these oaks are busy working very hard to try and get a nice, proper venue
Mm.
to have that, to make it a massive spectacle. But we're talking about one of the largest strongman leagues in the world. Their final is going to be here in South Africa
Sure.
because of the kind of work that these guys are
Yeah.
putting in. So,
100%.
um, agree, but the point is the work is being put in.
Mm.
But yeah, support is always welcome. Like you said, how much venues are costing. And, those athletes that are from overseas, I mean, they don't come over for free. They
Yeah.
expect to be paid for.
Yes.
They expect to be, uh, uh,
Looked
they've got to
after.
be catered for.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
need places to stay,
Mm.
all that type of stuff. and that comes at a cost. But it's again to progress the sport, is to give athletes that don't have the opportunity to go overseas or don't have the funds
Hmm.
necessarily. It's for them to be able to see what that level is like, but maybe even be able to compete against them, if there's an opportunity. But it's just a very good thing for the sport and again for the people, because again, whether you're an athlete or not, even if you're just a supporter, it'll be great to see some of the international athletes, to see how our guys measure up and that kind of thing as well. So that's in the works.
Phenomenal. I think it's just we do great events as well, and we can put this amazing stuff on. But it does come down to sponsorship and support. And the sense that I get with speaking to the strongman athletes, very much so, is that you guys understand and feel that it's a responsibility for bringing 100% for the performance, for showing up to help and grow the sport, just as the organizers are doing the work. You guys are bringing the work on the day at the event to make it as amazing for the spectators as possible. And I think that it's an amazing thing that the maybe because it's the sport isn't so big yet, but it's not something that I see a lot where each participant is carrying that level of responsibility for the sport.
Yeah, again, I do think it does come with time. Like I said, my perspective has certainly changed.
Hmm.
I've played the role of athlete, I've played the role of organizer, I've played the role, a multitude of roles, and seen how the sport has, flourished. Sometimes the sport hasn't done so great,
Mm.
and now again, like I said, I feel it's on the up. There's a lot of exciting things happening. There's a lot of new energy that's come into the sport. Um, but
Mhm.
yeah, to your point is that the athletes do have that
Mm.
responsibility. Hopefully, myself and Dean being some
Mhm.
of the guys that have been in the sport a little bit longer and so on can kind of, bring that message across, because at the end of the day,
Excuse me.
we're trying to make it a spectacle, we're trying to make it entertaining, we're trying to also make sure the crowd actually experiences like proper good energy from us.
Yes.
So we're trying to be good athletes as well, and to be good representatives of what we are capable of,
Yes.
at the end of the day.
That's.
Because
I
again,
think that's
that's the
it.
whole point of wanting to grow the sport.
Yep.
It's to get new talent in, it's to get fresh guys in. You get, like I said, you'll hear him being mentioned a lot, but I mean, the guy deserves it. Is Reina, which again, it's a talent that within 2 years he's progressed swimmingly.
Hmm.
It's a talent that might, there might be more of those talents sitting out there that just need to be reached. So
Yeah.
that's what this is about.
100%. That very very well said. And it's to keep carrying that yardstick and that torch for the sport. It's a fantastic thing. Speaking of the competition, Saturday. Anything you can share? Any expectations? Anything you'd like to talk about?
There's a lot of excitement. Like I said, Dean has created a lot of excitement about the experience and how the athletes, will be treated and the events and what a spectacle it can be. I'm very excited. I do think it's going to be one of the better essays we've had in a while. The guys all seem to have been training hard to bring their aim game.
Hmm.
Myself as well, I've put in a lot of work. And again, at the end of the day, we want to impress. We really want to be good ambassadors. So we're going to leave it all on the line. Obviously, like I said, everybody has their, limitation or their
Hmm.
shortcoming or a weakness, but it's that's not an excuse to just not go out there and give it your all. And
Absolutely.
I think that's the most anybody can expect from anyone.
Yep.
Um, I'm expecting some heavy deadlifts. I'm expecting some great truck pulls. I'm
Hmm.
expecting some very good performances across the board. And like I said, we're very fortunate that the sport is now in a place where we actually have classes,
Yes.
and it's not just the opens, it's all the other classes as well. So yeah, it's a good place to be, and I am very excited to go there and also compete and
Yeah.
hopefully carry the torch a few more years.
Oh, absolutely. And you have to. You owe it to us. No, no pressure, Dave. So, for you, are there any particular events you're looking forward to? I know I've mentioned it in a couple of the conversations. where Dean's been fanatical about the driveway where the trucks are being pulled, and it's a very slight uphill, but making sure it's level and it's safe and it's easy for the guys to get to keep the stride once they're going.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking forward to the deadlift. That's my strongest
Mm-hmm.
event, probably from all the events that there are on the day. I'm looking to set a personal best.
So, on that, if
And
I may interrupt you, we have a question from Amand. How much are you deadlifting? Is it something you can share?
more than you, Armand.
There we go. I got to give
Um,
you, hold on.
look,
Shots fired. Love it. Yeah.
um, to be honest with you, I've been chasing the mythical 400
Hmm.
kilograms for a long time,
Sure.
and I think the issue that people don't really get is not issue, but the as amazing as social media is, it desensitizes a person
To
because
reality.
now, oh yeah, but didn't that other guy deadlift 400 the other day,
Yeah.
and or 500 the other day, and they're chasing 505. But at the end of the day, 400 kilograms is a lot of weight.
Sure.
Um,
Hmm.
so for me, I've been deadlifting the very high 300s for quite a while. Things haven't always worked out. It's ironic you were talking about deadlift suits and borrowing deadlift suits and stuff. That was one of the key reasons I think I missed the 400 last year. Is I borrowed a deadlift suit from a mate of mine, Richie, and yeah, I'm quite a bit smaller than he is, so I ended up
Okay.
wearing like two neoprene suits to try and make it tight around my legs, and I had a nylon rope that was tied on my back, and trying
Get the most out of
get
the
it tight
suit.
to get
Mm-hmm.
something out of it. Fortunately, this year I've got a proper suit.
Awesome.
I think it might be too proper because I'm very uncomfortable in it. But I'm chasing the 400,
Yep.
and then ultimately, hopefully I can maybe do more than that because the training looks very good on that specific lift.
Okay, fantastic. We're looking forward to that 400, or potentially, no pressure, 400 plus. Um, and I think people really do need to understand that, with my powerlifting career, I came into it with its specific injuries, but I've never broken 197.5 in comp on the deadlift. Like, never been able. Morocco was the closest I came, and I left the handbrake on the thing. I've benched 165 in comp. Both raw. Sorry, the 165 was in a shirt. The deadlift was raw, and it's a lot of weight. So I'm saying, 200 is my unicorn, and you're talking about 400. And I hope people can. I don't think you can equate that and put it through your head, because the weight increase is not exponential. It's not like 120, 220 feels like 20 kilos more than 200. It doesn't. It feels like everything you've ever tried to lift if you've never done it before. And I think that's what people need
Yeah,
to
yeah,
understand. And I'm 100% with you on social media, because speaking to guys and saying to them, "What's the one thing that drives them mad about the sport?" It's it's the comment of guys are posting these massive weights on social media, but at competitions you see them not even getting it in a warm up. So I think we need to be perhaps a little bit more. And I know psych games and all of this stuff, but maybe guys need to be a little bit more like Dorian Yates and be a bit of a shadow with their numbers, and then bring it properly to the comp. Yeah. So we're looking.
yeah. I mean, no one really cares
Yeah.
until your hat is in the ring and you can do it there.
That's yeah.
So, I mean, go have a look at my Instagrams. I mean, I never ever
Mm,
post the weights.
yeah.
The first time I did was, like I said, I'm very proud of that record. It took me more than 15 years, so I'm
Sure.
proud of it. But
That's
other than that, I
phenomenal.
won't mention weights really when I
Mm,
train or whatever because it doesn't matter. If
yeah.
you don't do it there on the day, it doesn't matter.
That's it. It doesn't matter. Competition is what matters, because it's everything that's leading up to it. It's the travel, it's the eating out of your comfort zone, it's the all of these things, stress, the pressure, maybe cutting weight, whatever it is. It's on the day that matters, and that's really what counts. So absolutely spot on. And we're going to be holding thumbs for that 400. Speaking of our questions, I want to get into them because I'm looking forward to your answers. So, 4 questions. Three are a little bit more light-hearted, and one's a bit serious. So, first question, just for fun: what do you love about strongman? It can be the training, the competition, whatever.
I I love the competitors, the culture, the brotherhood that we have. I love that the most.
Phenomenal. Thank you. Awesome answer. And I think that that's been the theme through all of these conversations. For you, on a light hand, just very, not too serious, what drives you mad about strongman?
The fact that I can't use straps on grip implements.
Okay.
I damaged nerves in my hands quite a few years ago. I've
Mm,
got carpal tunnel on both hands.
sure.
I've had them operated, and so anything up is my bane.
Sure. Okay. So hopefully that'll not be standing in the way this weekend at all. All right. What
No, it's
yeah.
not an excuse. This is an excuse. I'm
No, no,
answering
no.
the question.
100%. 100% answering the question. Absolutely. A little bit more serious. What has strongman given you?
Strongman has given me a lot of confidence, and it's given me goals to work towards. Because, like I said, I was a very big hopeful with regards to rugby.
Hmm.
Like any probably young youth, especially probably now more than ever with the box doing so well. And yeah, like I said, life happens. Things
Hmm.
things don't necessarily always work out for you. Strongman gave me an avenue to actually still pursue goals and dreams worth chasing. So,
Sure.
and it's made me very confident as well, because at the end of the day, um, when it comes to these kind of things, I know that now I'm capable of something and I can
Hmm.
push towards something and I can achieve something.
Sure.
So I think whether it's strongman, whether it's powerlifting, I think any person needs an avenue, especially if you're not a professional in what you're doing. You need an avenue where you can pursue a goal or achieve and push yourself, whatever it is.
Right.
And strongman is that for me.
Phenomenal. Thank you for that. Fourth question, a little bit more lighthearted. I was inspired by the Ice Bucket Challenge. Is there anyone in the sport that you would like us to chat to? They don't necessarily have to be competing on Saturday, but someone you think who deserves to have their story shared.
I would love you guys to chat to Etienne Smith.
Okay,
In my mind, he is a living strongman legend. He has done a lot for the sport. He has achieved a lot. Yeah, and he's just, I think, a very good representation of what strongman in South Africa is.
awesome. Is he on Instagram? Can you send me his profile?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get his details to you.
Perfect. Thank you. And then we'll reach out to him. Thank you so much. If you look at the next 5 to 10 years, let's look at the sport first and then your career. What would you love to see happening within strongman over the next 5 to 10 years within South Africa? Because you've been in this for so long, you've seen the evolution and the change, the good and the bad. What would you like to see for the future?
Um, I'd like to see growth. I'd
Hmm.
like to see more athletes compete. I'd like to see more people come to support as well. But at the end of the day, we need to give them something to support. So I'd just like to see the sport grow and thrive, because, again, I really do think we have the potential. I
Hmm.
mean, we have athletes going overseas that are doing very well. Given a bit more support and given, a bit more exposure, we can maybe reach some individuals that might not have, wandered across to the sports.
Hmm.
I think that can happen.
Sure.
So that definitely for the sport, that's what I want, is nothing more but that.
Fantastic. That's the dream, right? Just for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
growth and for more people to come in and get involved. For yourself, in terms of your career, are there any dreams that you would like to achieve? Anything you'd like to achieve over the next few years?
Yeah. So again, like I said, I'm very passionate about competing overseas.
Hmm.
But the point is that you do need to make it worth it. So I guess my goal would be in the next 5 years is to just keep on progressing, because, again, I have been in the sport for quite long. I made the transition to open athletes about, I think, 2 or 3 years ago,
Hmm.
but it was a bumpy one. It wasn't, great, because I was a 105 athlete. Definitely not a natural open athlete, but I'd like to push my limits the next 5 years. I'd like to, we're talking about mythical numbers. So from a
Hmm.
deadlift perspective, there's the 1,000 pound deadlift. I'd love to
Right.
get very close to a 1,000 pound
Sure.
deadlift. My log press as well, I'd like to get as close to a 200 kg as possible. So there are definite
Hmm.
numbers and goals I'd like to chase, and go overseas and be competitive.
Yes.
I would say on my goals. And even though I've been in the sport for very long, and I am 35, I still feel there's a lot of life in me yet. Um, and there's a lot of drive for the sport yet. So
Hmm.
yeah, I want to have a very competitive next 5 years, pushing my limits.
Right, that phenomenal, and we're wishing you all the best for that from a selfish point of view because we want to witness it and we want to be able to stream that to the world. It's going to be, it's going to be something that's going to be absolutely fantastic. In the sense that I get from speaking to the athletes, there's no stopping, there's no resting on laurels. It's just push, push, push. See what you are capable of. When you hit a benchmark, when you hit a goal, it's straight on to the next one, straight in to the next goal.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
again, it speaks to the type of person that gets involved with the
Mm.
sport. I mean, if you look at, you're talking about that Sun City show and
Mm,
stuff. So
mm.
if you look at the standard of lifting, what those
Yeah.
guys lifted, I mean, you've got 105 competitions where the guys are doing heavier.
Yep.
The sport has progressed and the limits are being pushed everywhere. And I guess that also probably is kind of the gift that social media gives us is that we at least are aware of what the standard is and where
Yes.
it's headed as well.
Absolutely.
So I mean, as long as that's there, it speaks to the characters of the people that get involved. So most of us here want to be the best versions of ourselves,
Yes.
and most of us want to push the limits. And I guess that's that, again, that's one of the great things that this sports and even something like powerlifting, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of other sports out there that it can bring out of you.
Yes. And we need to get involved, and kids need to get off the couch. They need to understand. I
Oh
think
yeah.
I've spoken to so many rugby players that had really good careers, and for whatever reason that it was, I don't want to use the word taken away from them, but they weren't able to pursue those careers. And powerlifting, strongman, it's given those athletes something to, fill that hole with, fill that void with, and build an awesome life and have fun and do what they want to do. Because I think any elite athlete, as you said, there's something different that's going on with inside of that person, because to push yourself through all of that pain, those early mornings, people moan about a cold shower in the morning. The cold shower is a walk in the park compared to getting up and going to train when you can't move and it's aches and pains all the time, but you understand you have to get those lifts in, you have to get those sessions in. I'm so grateful that these sports exist, so that the guys who need that competition, that camaraderie, and that challenge of self have something to do. We've got a comment or a question from Mark Steenberg. I'm looking forward to your answer on this. So he says, I've seen 500 kilos being deadlifted on TikTok. How is that possible? And do you see yourself doing it in the next 5 years?
Uh, I was targeting like so 1,000 pounds, I think is like 455.
Yeah.
Yeah, around about there. Look, it is possible,
Mm.
but again, if so the gentleman's name was Eddie Hall that pulled it the first
Yep.
time. And after him, I think Thor in his home gym did
Yes.
501. And the guys are now, I think it's the deadlift championships is later on this year. They're going to try 505. Look,
Sure.
it is possible.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, you've got people that they're genetically gifted. They've
Yeah.
got the right biomechanically, they have the right levers. I always say like the stars and the planets align for some individuals. So they've got the genetics, they're genetically gifted. They've got the right working mentality
Mm.
and ethic. They potentially have the right financial support.
Yep.
And
Huge.
generally, anybody that's done something that big, they are pursuing that goal exclusively. So they're
Yes.
not working, they're not doing anything else. Literally, their profession is that record or that lift or to be at that kind of peak level of performance. So it is possible for some
Hmm.
individuals. Some people, that regardless of if everything else is there, just one of those elements are not involved in the
Hmm.
mix and they won't make it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is possible. Do I see myself doing it? Maybe after I pulled the 420 on Saturday, I'll say, yeah, no, let's go for it. But
Got
at
to
this
do
point
this
in
again.
time,
Hold on.
let's just first subscribe it, do
Yeah.
420, and then
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
not try? But again, that's what it's about. It gives the sport
Mm.
gives you an avenue to really push, be competitive, And that's no one can say if they're in the sport. No one can say that they've seen someone do something impressive and not have like a little bit of a spark or fire and saying,
Yeah.
yeah, can I do that? Maybe I should try. And that's how we got involved in the sport. We
Yes.
saw it, or we saw someone do something we couldn't. We maybe we must give it a go.
Yeah, that's such a great answer and also a great question from Mark. So thank you to both of you. That it is, it's about firing up that spark and understanding, hey, this is what you want to do. And it's a very, very specific individual that's able to move that kind of weight. For me, with a bigger bench than a deadlift, I go, well, I've got short arms, but I can bench. So, you know, it is that biomechanics where you've got to be able to get down there. You've got to be able to move that. I remember seeing a South African powerlifter, Harry. I've forgotten his surname. He's going to kill me. Deadlift 300 at SAs for the first time. And then he got beaten at 305, and he had to come out again and do 301. And watching that challenge and these guys fighting, absolutely incredible. And that's the spark. You sit there and you think, sure, I can't do that, but what could I do? And then maybe I could. And then you're able to commit your life to a very healthy path because you're not moving the weights you're moving. If you're not looking after your nutrition, you're not looking after your sleep, you're not looking after your recovery, and you're not balancing everything in life.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
You've got a heart here from Amber Smith. One, so this is, I think we're hitting a note and we're resonating with people, which is absolutely fantastic. From your side, Dave, just as we start to wrap up, is there anything else that you would like to share? Anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yo, I'm so scared I'm going to miss someone, but I think I've genuinely plugged
Hmm.
the right message that I wanted in the beginning.
Yes.
There are too many individuals to mention individually, but these are the standouts for me at this point in time. And yeah, I mean, like I said, if possible, please come and watch the show live.
Yeah.
If not, watch the stream. But nothing is as good as live. And as an athlete, um, I can definitely say when I have been competing at competitions where there is a large crowd, it just does fire you up that little bit more. It does make you want to perform and step up a little bit more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if we could get some more people to be there in person, especially the locals, and then again, if not, please support the stream
Thank
and
you.
share it. Share it on your
Yeah.
socials. Get people involved and excited because these things are happening here. Um,
Absolutely.
we,
Yeah.
we have the world champion for a reason because the
Mm.
scene exists and we can develop the talent and we have, the means and the drive to do so. So I think just help us grow.
Help us grow. That's it. I'm old enough to remember growing up in an era where the Curry Cup was the biggest sporting event because of politics. We were isolated. We didn't have international sports. South African athletes didn't have the opportunity, and we're sitting with that opportunity. But it's the responsibility not only of the athletes and the organizers, but of people in this country to support the sport. If you want awesome stuff to go and watch on the weekend, if you're moaning that your kids are always stuck inside on the PlayStation or on the computer on the weekend and you'd love to get them out into the sun, come and support this amazing comp. Come and support the athletes. And the more support, the more competitions. Yeah.
100%. And
That,
again, those kids, they might one day also see this and that becomes an avenue for them.
yeah.
Um, you know,
Come and meet
a
some
hobby
real
like this is
superheroes.
a hobby like this will always have more positives than negatives.
Negative. Yeah.
And to your point, not everybody's going to, be able to pursue that rugby or cricket
Hmm.
or soccer or whatever dream. But the fact that there is a strongman scene or a powerlifting scene there for you, ready and waiting for you to be able to challenge yourself, that is a gift.
An absolute
But
gift. Yeah.
we need to make sure that that scene is there.
Yeah,
That's the
that's
important
it.
part.
It's our responsibility to ensure that it's there. Everybody, from the streaming to the athletes to the coaches to the organizers to the public. Just before we wrap, I just wanted to share this with you. David, you're such a big inspiration for other people. And that's from Pro Am Strongman. Vinay, such a lovely young athlete. Had the opportunity to chat with her this morning. She's going to be competing, and that's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Dave, it's been unbelievable chatting. I think we could have honestly done this for 3 hours, And I've got poor Desan. He's gonna be waiting a little bit. But thank you for your time. Just want to say, travel safe, rest well, and have a fantastic competition. We cannot wait to meet you in person on the weekend and to have a chat as well at the comp. And all the best for those numbers. Hey, we're looking forward to them.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick, and thank you for all the effort and thank you for the platform.
And,
We really appreciate it.
our absolute pleasure. You know, my sobriety was made possible through the ability to start with one push up. When I came back from my first meeting and I couldn't go to the bar to spend my evening, which I'd been doing for decades before that, and I had nothing to do and fill the time with those noises and those voices in my head wanting to tear me apart. I started with one push up, and then the next day it was three, and the next day it was five, and then it became, when I broke 10, I was over the moon. 10 without putting my knees down. It was incredible. And
Mm.
so this is the value of sport. We owe it to ourselves to get involved. And I think strength sport is such a wonderful thing to do because we can track our progress. We can see our
And it
progression.
empowers people.
Yeah,
It really does empower people. Big
absolutely.
time.
So come in on Saturday if you're there. Come and get empowered. Come and get inspired. Come and get uplifted. And if you can't join us, at least join us online and share this with all your friends and family. I think that's a good point to end off on. Dave, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Nick. Have a
Okay.
good one.
Thank you. You too. And to your wife and daughter, fantastic sign. And look forward. Please bring it with you to the comp. We're going to get a photograph of you with it and we'll post it on our socials as well.
Will do.
Lekker.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Nick.
Bye bye. Bye.
Cheers.
That was David Bezuidenhout. What a fantastic conversation. What an amazing athlete. Thank you, Dave, for joining us. Guys, stay with us. Our last conversation for the day. It's been a busy day. We'll be chatting to Desan Govender in a few minutes. This old man has to run to the bathroom. We'll be back probably in about 5 minutes. Please do stay with us for that conversation. Thank you for your support during the day. It's meant a great deal to us, to ourselves, to the athletes, and I know to the other athletes as well. So we'll see you shortly.